Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Startup Showcase by Activize. This is one of the projects through which we have interviews with good startups that we encounter in our scouting processes. And today we have with us Mihai Ghiță from Sypher. Hello, Mihai. How are you?
Jan, thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you also for attending. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself and about Sypher so that we can get to know you?
Yes, so Sypher is a virtual GDPR assistant for the privacy team. It's a software platform that provides step-by-step guidance and helps them work more efficiently with the rest of the business when they assess, document, and maintain GDPR compliance. So this is what we do. We provide a software platform for GDPR compliance teams. Now about myself and our team, I have a software background. I used to do software for insurance companies and brokers, and this is something that is somehow connected with data privacy because these kind of companies, insurance and insurance brokers, are heavily regulated, and the requirements that are today for everyone for GDPR compliance, they had them previously already. The data protection requirements were high already for insurers and insurance brokers. So when GDPR appeared, we realized that everybody would have to comply with these higher standards, and it would be an opportunity for us to create a platform to help people manage this kind of activities.
Okay, mainly this was the motivation that you saw the opportunity of GDPR appearing and you said, let's hop in that, right?
It was also, let's say, a personal experience. So I have been managing projects involving people from multiple countries when we had to do reports or all kinds of things together, but mainly collecting information and creating reports on a regional basis. And it was very difficult to do it manually by email, spreadsheets, etc. And if you look at GDPR, it's a similar thing. So the privacy team has to collect information from everybody in the company, sometimes from multiple companies, from multiple countries, and they have to put everything together. And this is very difficult to do. It's prone to errors and it's painful. Okay, it's not something that you want to do manually. And when we realized, okay, this is going to be a problem for a lot of people, this is how the idea came to life. And I was discussing with my partner, my co-founder, Christian, who comes from the payment industry, which is also heavily regulated, and they have to process a lot of data and they have high security requirements. And we realized that this is a new market opening, and we say, okay, let's see what we can do here. What would be the solution that we can come up with, knowing firsthand that there is a real problem that people have.
Okay. And now let's get more into the problem actually. Like GDPR had to be implemented since May of 2018, right? What problems do the company still have up to this day after 2 years and a half? What problems do they face regarding GDPR so far?
Okay, so I'll go back a few more years. So GDPR is a regulation that appeared in 2016, and companies had 2 years to implement it. And when, of course, larger companies started to work on it early, most of the companies actually started in the last quarter of 2017 and beginning of 2018. And it was a very high-paced effort to do something, but it was also a lack of knowledge in the market because nobody knew exactly what would happen in May 2018, May 25, when the regulation will come into force. It was a lot of chaos, let's say. But people did an effort, they read the regulation, they did spreadsheets, they document whatever they could. And then it was like a relief that we managed to do something. But when the reality appeared, and the reality is that this kind of effort is not one time. So you don't do it once and forget about it. You have to regularly update what's in there, and you have to make sure that you stay in control of the documentation and the compliance, because what you did 2 years ago, even if the business didn't change, something changed beneath it. So you work with different companies, you use different software, you target different markets. So you have to keep a good eye on what did you document and what are the changes. And I would say that one of the biggest challenge that the companies have today is managing change in the documentation. Okay, so they have a lot of documentation, and if you go to a large company the records of processing activities, which if you don't have a platform is like a very long spreadsheet with hundreds of activities and tens of columns. It has a lot of information, and it's very difficult to understand when something changes. Yes, and it's very difficult to discuss with people and have them look at the spreadsheet and tell you, oh, this is what changed here. And if something changes in one place, it's difficult to understand what are the correlations. So simply maintaining a clear list of what the company is doing, it's still a big challenge today, unless you have a system in place which is helping you doing it. Yeah, I would say this is the biggest challenge that many businesses still have today.
Okay. And how do you help the company solve that challenge? Because I see that you have a pretty complex product so far.
Yes. So the platform that we designed is actually is looking at how a successful privacy management program looks like, and we look at a lot of companies. We have already 3 years of experience, and we notice that the ones that are more successful have 3 things in common. Yes. So first of all, of course, they have a good system to document and collect information and assess compliance with GDPR. So they know very well what's going on in the company. They are able to collect information and to collaborate very well internally. The second thing is that everyone in the company is aware of GDPR and they know what is their role and responsibility, because compliance is not something that the compliance team does. Yes, this is something that the people in the company who are using personal data have to be aware of. When somebody calls and I pick up the phone and they say, can you tell me something about my account? You have to be aware that you can't give data without knowing who that person is and identify them, etc. Or you have to be aware that this might be a request or GDPR request for information or for data. Tell them what data you process about them, and then you have to make sure if you identify this kind of request, you notify the person in charge so they can document it and respond in time. Because if you don't respond in time, you risk a fine, you risk the authority coming and asking, why don't you respond to this person? So everybody has to know what they're doing and their role in as when they process personal data. And the third thing is you need to have a monitoring system in place, just as I said. So when something changes, the compliance team knows about it and they're able to analyze and update the documentation regularly. So what we did is the platform that we created has a, let's say, a step-by-step project plan. Yes. So it goes to the first step. Okay, who is going to help you? What is the privacy team, the small privacy team, which are the consultants? What do you have right now? And we are going to import all your spreadsheets and whatever document you have into the platform. Then once you do this, it's going to start and organize information and going to create lists. These are the systems you work with. These are the companies you work with. And then you're going to have a revision of this list. And then you have another step where every department is going to look at what they have, but this is already structured and organized, and they can make changes if needed. And then again, you have more steps to document the lawfulness and security of the processing. And being a very organized process makes it easy, first of all, to understand where you are and what you still need to do to identify the gaps. And then it makes sure that you don't make mistakes. Okay, because if you are missing something, let's say you don't realize that someone is processing, I don't know, some personal data somewhere, you are not able to document it, you are not able to make sure it's legal, and most important, you are not able to make sure it's secure. And if you look at the kind of fines that appear, so there are a lot of fines, small and large ones, but most of the fines are not related to some big security failure, like someone is hacking the database. It's fines for things like someone printed a document with a list of clients and forgot it on the reception, and someone took it by accident and it went somewhere. Or if you are familiar, there's a hotel with where a reporter took a photo of the guest list and published an article. Yeah, so it's not something like critical for the company, but for the persons on the list, it proves to be a security breach. Yes, so you have to understand very well what everybody is doing. You have to understand where the data is coming from, where is it stored, and where does it go, so you can implement appropriate measures. Yes. So this is something that is very important.
And at what stage are you now? Like, how many customers are you currently having?
So we started about 3 years ago, and right now I think we're over 100 companies using the platform.
Okay, and what is their general feedback?
Actually, the customers we work with are usually medium large companies who have feel very painfully this problem, because the larger the company, the more problems you have. If you are a small company with 5 people, is not such a big problem. Yeah, it's much more easier to do it. But if you're a large company, you feel very hard that you need to you lose control of the process unless you have a very good tool in place. And they are usually happy with this, and we get usually get after one company in a group tries the software, we get other companies to try it as well, because when you establish a structured way of working, if you multiply it across multiple companies, it's much easier to have everything. So when you need to make a report, everybody does it the same way. You don't use Excel, or you don't use some manually filled template. You need to get a report, you get it instantly, because it's just exporting it, and everybody wrote it the same way. It's not, I need to send an email, everybody needs to work for 2 weeks, and when I get the report, it's already expired. Yes. So it's a positive thing. And it's also positive because when we started to work on this project, we also had another thing that we wanted to do different. And I will mention it in a bit. So if you look at typical business to business software, and we work business to business, work with companies, with people, this is, let's say, difficult to use for the end user. Yeah. So if you want to sell to end users, everybody knows you have to have a very simple software, because otherwise it's a consumer, they are not going to spend 5 minutes to more to read the manual. They don't understand it, they go to someone else. But when it's business to business and it's bought from the corporate level, people are using it because they have to. But we wanted to have a better experience than the typical B2B software. So we try to do a simple to use interface. So we don't want the people to read the manual. Instead, we put tooltips and we put examples and suggestions, and we have the virtual assistant come up with this is what you need to do, like split everything in small steps, and you can say, I do this, I ask my colleague to do this, and just do it step by step. We really don't want people to read the manual. So we try to have everything on the spot and suggest it to them. So when they start working, it's easy for them to do this and then get back to their work. Because compliance is not the main business. You need to have people involved, but you can't take them like 2 days for training to focus on compliance when they work in sales, because then they're not going to sell anything. Okay. So we want them to focus very briefly, do something there, and then get back to work and make it as easy as possible.
And what's next for Sypher? What are you planning to do next?
Okay, so right now we are actually focusing on expanding to the rest of Europe. So we have most of the customers in Romania, but we also have customers in France, in Luxembourg, in Hungary and Bulgaria. These are like pilot things with various partners. And right now we are actually updating our marketing message and strategy to be able to communicate to a broader audience and to scale up. Yeah, so we know that we have a platform, it works, people are happy with it. It's time to scale up and to become more visible to potential customers.
And then the last question that I have for you is, how could the audience viewing this interview help you scale up Sypher?
That's a good question. So I think the first thing about every business needs to be compliant, yes, with GDPR. And we have a trial which is available, and we actually encourage people to just try the assistant and see if it helps them. Okay, so that's a free trial, so you can fully use it for 1 month, or we can sometimes we have even more in some campaigns. And I would say this doesn't help only them to answer your question. It also helps us, because when someone is using the software and they don't understand something and ask support for something, we also learn from that question how to make the product better. Yeah. So the more people that try the software, the better we can become at solving the problem from people. And next time someone with the same problem will find a tooltip or a suggestion or something to help them answer the question on the spot instead of having to ask us or read the manual.
Okay, so mainly try free trial version and give you feedback so that we can make the product even better.
And you can actually verify. So the thing is, once you put things into the platform, it also helps you identify where you are and what are the gaps in what you have. And that's also a good exercise to do for every company. Yeah? Because even if you think you are doing well, you might find that you are missing things, especially if you have a complex GDPR program.
Okay, so basically, if I start with a free trial, I also get an analysis of how GDPR compliant I am at the current moment, right?
Yes, just by going through the project plan, the project plan is basically a list of steps and you have checklists and things like that. And you are able to think, did I do this? Did I do that? Even if you don't do it right now, you might realize there are things that you missed. And also when you import the register into the platform, it's automatically going to look and say, you are missing this, you are missing that. And you might think you're not missing things, but when you have a very large spreadsheet, there are always mistakes in it.
So thank you, Mihai. How can we reach you? How can we learn more about Sypher? Can you give us your website and also your email address?
Sypher.eu is the website, and if you go there, you can see more about the platform, and you can also request a demo or a trial account.
So thank you, Mihai, for accepting the invitation for this Startup Showcase interview. And also thank you everyone for watching us. We'll be back soon with another Startup Showcase. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.